Hello and welcome back to Doctor Who, the cancelled years. In this video, we'll be covering Series 1 of United Nations. So, let's get started. United Nations were doing the second official Doctor Who spin-off. It would have starred Penelope Wilton as General Amanda Powell, Dave Kerwin as Rani, and David Tennant as the new character Jonathan McCrimmon. The show would have been created by Doctor Who showrunner Stephen Moffat. The show would have been based off the unit team that he had established during his time as showrunner. While the show was created by Moffat, he declined the option to showrun as he was busy with Doctor Who, so the position of showrunner was given to former Doctor Who showrunner Keith Barnfather. Moffat would join on as an executive producer to overlook the series, along with Julie Gardner, with the series producer being Eileen Cameron. Like Doctor Who and The Pyramid, the show would have been produced by both BBC Wales and Real Time Pictures. The series would be composed of 7 45-minute episodes, with the first episode acting as the show's pilot. The series would start airing in early March 2008 on BBC One. However, the pilot episode would have aired on New Year's Day. For the title sequence, we get something similar to the early Pyramid titles, with a digital background and the cast credits being overlaid, though this time the colour scheme of the titles was blue instead of red. The title music, along with all the music in this series, would have been done by season 37 and 38 composer David Arnold, which would have given the show a different feel to Doctor Who. And now, let's get to the episodes. The first episode would have been Pilot, written by Stephen Moffat. The story would have been the main pilot for the series. For most of the runtime, we focus on the new character Jonathan McCrimmon, who is a local police officer. The story begins at a police crime scene, where we see the police discovering a torn up dead body in the middle of the street. However, partway through their work, the police are told by higher ups to clear the area, as a group of specialists have arrived to take over. The police back off from the area, however Jonathan hides behind the building and watches as a special team named Unit arrives. We then see a black SUV pull up to the scene and out steps Amanda Powell and Rani. They investigate the body and note that it's the work of a jackalow. Then a group of soldiers load the body into an ambulance and they clear the area, leaving Jonathan confused as he watches Amanda and Rani leaving. The next bit of the story sees Jonathan investigating what he saw that night. He learns a bit about Unit, but doesn't discover much, other than they're like a special secret police that deals with the unnatural. Meanwhile, during his investigations, more torn up bodies are being reported across London, and we see Jonathan trying to discover what this jackalow is. Eventually, Jonathan spots Amanda and Rani at a crime scene, and once they enter an SUV, he decides to follow them. They end up in an abandoned car park, where Amanda and Rani exit the SUV and aim a gun at Jonathan, as they knew he was following them. We then see Jonathan trying to get answers about Unit. Amanda reveals to Jonathan about Unit and what they're doing. She says that they're tracking down an alien named a jackalow that eats the bodies of the dead, as the jackalow are a unique species that can only survive on the flesh of the dead. The next bit of the story sees Amanda, Rani and Jonathan hunting down a jackalow in the car park as they discover another torn up body. The jackalow is then defeated when it tries to attack and strangle Rani to death, but Jonathan shoots it dead. Then the rest of the unit team arrive and the jackalow body is taken away. At the end of the story, Amanda offers Jonathan a place at Unit, as she believes if he can track them down, then he's more useful than he looks. Jonathan agrees, and he's taken in as a new member of UNIT. The second episode would have been Time's Assassin, written by Steve Lyons. The story would have paid homage to the 1984 movie The Terminator. The story would have been about an assassin from the far future arriving in present-day London, who begins to hunt down a woman named Lucy Carter. However, the UNIT team discovers the assassin and his plans, and they have to protect Lucy. We never fully learn why Lucy is a target, however it's hinted at by the assassin that she becomes a political figure in the future, whose policies cause the country to go into chaos. Eventually, the UNIT team are able to stop the assassin when he's gunned down in a big gunfight scene near the end of the episode. Jonathan becomes concerned by what he's just seen and asks Rani why they saved her if they know she's going to do evil things in the future, and Rani gives a brief explanation of the Web of Time, as well as how they can't rewrite history. The third episode would have been Greenline, written by Jonathan Morris. The story would have been about people across London who were transforming into lizard mutants. The story would have been about the UNIT team investigating what's causing people to mutate and how to stop it. It turns out that a group of aliens known as the Jaggeroth are responsible, as they're selling what they claim to be a fizzy pop drink named Greenline, but in reality it's an outlawed elixir which mutates people into lizard mutant creatures. The story really gives all three of our main cast something to do, with Jonathan using his detective skills to track down the Jaggeroth, Rani creating a Greenline antidote, and Amanda preparing a full takedown of the Jaggeroth. In the end, most of the Jaggeroth are killed in a battle against UNIT, however some are arrested and imprisoned. The fourth episode would have been Dæmos Rising, written by David J. Howe. The story sees Amanda responding to a message from an ex-UNIT operative named Cavendish to investigate a haunting, as he feels he's been stalked by a statue of a demon-like creature and has encountered a ghost-like figure in his house. It turns out that Cavendish is being influenced by a creature named Mashto, who we discover to be one of the last daemons. The UNIT team discover a time-active religious cult named the Sodality had revived and transported Mashto through time in hopes of controlling him for their own purposes. However, Mashto ends up being defeated by Cavendish along with Amanda, Rani and Jonathan. The fifth episode would have been Please Stand By, written by Nicholas Briggs. This would have been a very experimental story. It would have been about an alien terrorist attack taking place in the centre of London, with the UNIT team investigating the terrorist attack. However, the story would have been told through the perspective of a news broadcast on the television. The main plot is quite a basic one, where it turns out that the aliens were trying to kill off one of their own people who went into hiding, though the main selling point of the story is the fact that it's being told through a news broadcast. It would have received some mixed reactions due to its unusual format, however it did stand out more than the other stories in this season. The sixth episode would have been Beneath the Earth, Part 1, written by Chris Chibnall. This story would have essentially been a story from our own universe, The Hungry Earth, albeit with a few changes, which I'll list now. 1. The story is set in modern day Earth and not 2020. 2. The Doctor and Companion have been replaced with the UNIT cast, with Amanda in the Doctor's role and Rani and Jonathan in the Companion's role. 3. The Silurian design would be different and look more alien than a humanoid face in a mask. And 4. Instead of using the TARDIS, which doesn't exist, the main way the cast get down to the Silurian base is through a cave, which appears to go on for miles, but due to Silurian engineering, it's quick to get down. Basically, it's like a teleport but you don't know you've been teleported. Other than that though, it would have been pretty much the same story. The final episode would have been Beneath the Earth, Part 2, written by Chris Chibnall. Like the last episode, this episode would have been based off Cold Blood, albeit with changes. Including the changes from the last episode, these are the changes between this version of the story and the real one. 1. The main cast are split in opinions. with Amanda wanting to blow up the Silurians, Jonathan wishing to find a peaceful coexistence solution, and Ronnie not really getting involved with the story as she's in Amy's role, and the fact that she's a time lady and not human, so it's not really her decision to make. 2. Since the sonic screwdriver doesn't exist, the Silurians' weapons won't be turned off by magic. Instead, the characters just have to dodge and work around the gunfire. And 3. None of the main characters die in the end. Other than that though, it's very much the same story as it is in our own universe. And that concludes Series 1 of United Nations. It would have been fairly well received, though it did have some teething issues. So join me next time for Season 45 of Doctor Who. Until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.